I'm Jim Collison, and live from the Gallup campus here in Omaha, Nebraska. This is Gallup's Theme Thursday, recorded on March 12th, 2015. Theme Thursday is a Gallup web series that dives deep into the CliftonStrengths Finder themes, one theme at a time, and today's theme is discipline. If you have questions, comments, or contributions during the webcast, we do have a live chat room available for you. It's right below the main video window there. Just look down. If you're using Internet Explorer, your organization may block it as well. There's a direct address to that. If you go to chatwing.com/Gallup Strength Center, there might be a link in the Having Issues section down below. And if you are having issues or have issues during the webcast, sometimes with the video, we do have a live audio player that's also down there. It'll say Mixler on that. Just push play, and maybe you don't have enough bandwidth to get the full video or whatever. That is a great way to catch us live as well. We also make this available. All the recorded versions are available on the coach's blog. So if you missed this, or you've missed one in the past, or you're new to coming to this, you can head out to coaching.gallup.com. And of course, don't forget to visit the Gallup Strength Center. That's just gallupstrengthcenter.com for all your coaching resources and StrengthsFinder enthusiast needs, not just for coaches. You can head out to the Gallup Strength Center. Lots of good information about you and your strengths, including some insight reports that you may not know that you even had. So head out to the Strength Center. Log in with the email address that you took StrengthsFinder with, and lots of information for you. Kurt Liesfeld is our host today. Kurt works as a senior learning and development consultant here on the riverfront. He's coming to us live from Lincoln today. And Kurt, welcome to another Theme Thursday.
Thanks, Jim. It's good to be back here, and I'm excited about learning and hearing more about discipline. It's great to have Ryan on the call. Ryan, welcome. I'm looking forward to hearing from you.
Glad to be here.
Discipline is a theme that I'm not personally very familiar with. It's kind of on the bottom part of my profile, but it's obviously I love all 34 themes, or at least I'm in the process of doing that. So I'm excited and anxious to kind of talk about this. So let me kind of launch into my theme overture here, and I'll give you just a brief definition and then kind of try to unpack that a little bit. People who have discipline as one of their signature themes are people who are often very good at what I would say managing limited personal resources by creating a plan and following it. These are people who bring order to chaos, and it's really about personal efficiency. People who get things done by creating structure and order to kind of support what it is that they do. And so it's in the executing domain. That's where it falls. It really helps. It's one of the things that helps people accomplish things, to be productive. In terms of some nouns that kind of relate to this particular theme, I've already used the word. They're organizers. They kind of bring some order to their world. They're often planners. They have a plan. Here's what I'm going to do and when I'm going to do it. That kind of structure helps. I think these are people who are probably more self-controlled. Control is not a bad word. It's a good word to people who have this. I also use the word architect. When you create structure, when you create plan, you are kind of architects of building something bigger, and to some degree it could be building a better life. So I like that word, architect. And then just structure is another word. Adjectives, predictability, predictable. You know, predictable is not a bad thing. It's a good thing. So knowing ahead of time of what I'm going to do, thinking ahead about what I'm going to do is the planning aspect. They also have a detail orientation to them. I mean, sometimes when we think about big picture, there are themes that have big picture. This is more the micro picture. It's the detail. Ryan, before the show, noticed that I had a little bit of Greek yogurt on my lip. I was kind of having my lunch here, and he notices details, and that can be a very valuable thing. It was for me. I didn't want to have Greek yogurt on my face. It's also people who can be kind of meticulous, and that may be part of why he didn't want Greek yogurt on my face as well. Structured, neat, orderly, timely, perfection, perfectionistic. I mean, I can say that about several themes, but this is one of the themes that contributes to people doing things in a very perfectionistic way, in a positive sense of that. Rehearsed, planned, exact, kind of exacting. So those are all words that kind of go into this. When I think about this in its raw form, when I think about what raw discipline might look like, kind of unseasoned, uninformed, in its rawest form, it might sound a little bit like this. If my world is out of order, I'm a mess. When people with discipline, and that might be one of the things, that they're uncomfortable when there is chaos around them. And obviously when it's more mature, it brings order to chaos, but I think it begins to some degree with just a discomfort with disorder. I think when it matures, here's how I would describe mature. When someone's world is a mess, I can help restore the order. These are people who can bring order to chaos, and not only their own, but I think to some degree others. I think there are other themes that can kind of help to both intensify and modify or moderate this particular theme. For example, someone with discipline might also have developer. So this theme might help you be more patient with mistakes that come from inexperience. To some degree, when people with discipline notice something that's out of order, they might be more patient with people who are trying to find that order. I think a ranger is another theme that could help to kind of complement discipline. Could help others appreciate your plan by incorporating greater flexibility when change is required. I think that's the thing that the vulnerability, I think, of discipline is that it really relies on a plan, and it may not be willing to change the plan. It may, hang on to the plan when things change around them. So change can sometimes be an issue when people have high discipline. Adaptability could be a great partner when the unpredictable mounts a surprise attack on the predictable. So discipline and adaptability are themes that I often see kind of widely separated on someone's profile. It doesn't mean it's impossible, but if you like the predictable, that's discipline. Adaptability is more people who like the spontaneous, the unpredictable. I like a surprise. So that would be kind of the difference there. In terms of the theme that is most likely paired with discipline, it's responsibility. And I really think those two themes have a lot in common. One is discipline is more of an internal kind of order, whereas responsibility is more external. But those two kind of go together quite a bit. If you got one, you might have the other one. It's at like 30.36, kind of the ratio of the way those things fit together. The theme that is least likely paired with discipline is ideation. And I'm not exactly sure. I think part of that is ideation usually means change. We're going to do something different. It's something new. It's a change. So there's some logic why if you have one of these, you probably won't have the other one, just in terms of how you see the world and how you view the world. But again, there's probably the rare person out there that is a very creative planner or an organized inventor. Maybe might be it. Discipline used to be the least frequent of all 34 themes in our database. When we were at about 1 million or 2 million or 3 million, discipline was on the bottom of the list. It was the least frequent. As the database has grown, it has moved up, but not far. It is still one of the least frequent themes. And that's something I kind of want to talk to Ryan about, is if he sometimes feels like a minority because it seems like the world is a very disorganized place. So I think that's enough for my overture here. I think it's time to get Ryan talking. Ryan, why don't you just introduce yourself to the audience here and tell us just a little bit about the role you play at Gallup.
You bet. So my top 5 are discipline, achiever, futuristic, activator, and harmony. I've been here at the Gallup for 11 years. I'm the wellness coordinator. I started as a fitness center intern. I've worked inside our fitness center for 11 years. I kind of oversee the operations of it and our wellness program. So wear a couple of different hats within our benefits team. Here at Gallup, I went through the I got certified last year, about a year ago, with Kurt and Al. So I've learned just a lot more in the past year. I will say I did, though. I started working at Gallup when I was really young. I was a junior in Nebraska, and I was an interviewer, so doing the Gallup polls, and it was a great job. So I've been with Gallup almost half my life. I took the Strengths Finder when I was 17 years old, so I've known about these for quite a long while, but really kind of accelerated my learning just in the past 12 months.
Yeah, I was. So what did discipline look like? What evidence of discipline did you see in your elementary school year age? What,
yeah,
can
a whole
you
lot of raw discipline, unproductively applied.
Well, what did it look like in you? What would be an example of raw discipline in Ryan Wolf in the 3rd grade?
Oh yeah, so just really organized. So in my bedroom, I'd keep a very organized golf ball collection. Baseball cards, football cards were just perfectly kept in binders, and so I did things that normal kids would do, but maybe that whole organization step that I would take just kind of maybe was a little different, and really not necessarily productive, but different than different.
Well, that's I'm sure your mother thought it was very productive.
Yeah.
I'm guessing mothers would love neat kids.
Yeah. Sometimes she did.
When didn't she?
Oh, I probably would just spending those unproductive hours, not reading, not doing things that I needed to be doing, that weren't, just a good use of time. So
you could kind of spend time getting your ducks in a row, kind of.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
So it has matured. I don't still work on my golf ball collection every day, but yeah. So that was kind of the younger me.
Did you have any? And I've never asked this question to people before in this, but as I think about how these things get shaped in me, did you have any discipline role models? Was there a teacher, a coach, or any of your relatives who you kind of saw this kind of order and organization in them that you kind of respected and admired?
Boy,
like your dad or mom? Do they have this kind of?
My dad is an organized guy. He was a worker for several years in Lincoln, and he did it his whole career. So he had a really organized garage with all his tools, piles of wood, machinery. So I can see where I was influenced in that manner.
Yeah, maybe influenced both genetically and environmentally. You were
Right.
kind of you not only had this kind of predisposition, but you also kind of observed that.
Yeah, I was surrounded by it.
One of the questions that people have asked us to ask on a regular basis, and I think it's a great one, is what do you do to transform this natural talent into a strength? And so are there any experiences that you had or education that you had that really kind of helped use this more productively, this predisposition to order or structure? Were there any classes you took or any jobs that you had?
I can think back to high school and maybe more college with statistics classes, just diving into Excel, so Microsoft Excel, and organizing numbers and data. So I think that's kind of where some things started clicking for me. Production was, I was able to be productive with organized sets of tools.
Okay, yeah, that's a great example. Did you have any jobs, like I mean, obviously, I mean, even just your jobs now,
Mm-hmm.
how has discipline helped you to be more effective in your kind of professional life? What?
Well, I can kind of think kind of before my professional life as a 16, 17, 18-year-old, even a college student working that job at the interviewing center in Lincoln, and really having control over your schedule. So I was on a 15-hour team, really manageable hours. But I had a lot of other things going on, playing in sports. I had college work to do, and managing all of that. But being able to, I also have achiever really high, so being able to have control over my schedule. I work 5 hours Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I was done for the week. So really having that control, the predictability of knowing what a week is going to look like, sitting down on Sunday and really having a really clear view of what's ahead of me is awesome, and I really can't do that, can't do without that. Professionally, I got this job as an intern in the fitness center, and then right when we moved to Gallup to Omaha from Lincoln, and then I kind of just became a wellness coordinator, and my boss said we need a wellness program because we don't have one now that we have this fitness center that we didn't have in Lincoln. So go ahead and start creating our wellness program now. So just that was great. I could set up benchmarks and milestones and not really create a wellness program over 1 year, but just years at a time and really develop it into something.
Yeah, you can kind of hear your futuristic kind of plugging into that. What would be some daily routines that kind of bring structure to your life? Do you have any, or weekly?
Yeah, no, and annual ones. I know lots of routines. So they're, and being so close to wellness, so I have a regimented workout plan that I think about in advance, that I've created for weeks in advance, and that's something that is a part of my day that I check off. I think about the bedtime routine with my sons, and it's something that is, the day doesn't end right unless we've hit all those marks. So with the teeth and everything, medicine taken by 8:10. We are reading books by 8:15. The lights are out by 8:45. That is, I can walk down the stairs and feel pretty solid about my day at home.
So what happens when the routines get adjusted or changed for some reason?
Yeah, so a lot of harmony, high harmony for me, high developer as well. So I'm okay with when things don't go according to schedule, as long as people are happy, so, and there's not friction, and people are so there's just things come up, and I probably only hit that 4 out of the 5 weeknights, maybe only 3. But I'm comfortable with them not happening when they do. But when they do occur, it's gratifying.
You get to interact a lot with people about their health and well-being, and
right.
Particularly kind of, when I think of you particularly about physical health, and I'd be interested in kind of some of your thoughts. We know that not very many people have discipline, this kind of internal structure to kind of come up with a plan and execute their plan. And how do you observe that as you interact with people? What do you think? How do you help people with low discipline manage that?
Yeah, I think as a partnership, creating plans and structures for a person is important, even though they don't have discipline. So working on creating that with a person, either you can work separately or side by side with a person to create a plan. But plans ultimately terminate, right? So plans are month-long, year-long, 6 months long. So what are we going to do after the plan is over? And I think it's really important, those first few weeks to create habits and not rely so much on the plan, because habits create lifestyle changes. Lifestyle changes create better health. So it just kind of goes back to not just giving somebody a plan, but teaching them the habits that come along with it.
It's almost like a plan is a tool to help people get to a habit. I like that. I think you're right. I think maybe one of the values of discipline is the ability to create a plan. It's a structure to some degree to help people, and I don't think many people have that ability to kind of create that kind of structure. But that structure is, a lot of times I talk about the structure that we use in our coaching programs as the training wheels. When you ride a bike, it's this additional structure that helps you balance. But pretty soon you can take away those training wheels, and the habit or the internal ability to do this kind of sticks. I also like the ability that every plan has a kind of a shelf life. Mm-hmm. The plan has a beginning and it has an end, usually. Are you intentional about saying this is a week plan, a month plan, a 6-month plan when you plan? Does it? Because I've never thought about plans that way. I just think plans go on into infinity. So maybe that's part of the problem with my planning.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you need to be clear with how long this plan is going to last, and how much can we communicate between the start and end of this plan. I think we need to communicate a whole lot, and then we also need to reevaluate. So this plan works for you today, but when it's done in 4 weeks, it might not be the same thing that we're going to give to you again if you would like another plan, and that if you haven't created those lifestyle habits that we're aiming for. So you're going to be in a different place. You are going to develop, so you will need a different plan, especially a year from now, because a lot of things will change.
Yeah, no, I like that. That's a new way of thinking about plans to me. Is mm-hmm. To some degree, plans have a shelf life. So that's why, and it's interesting that ideation is the lower is least frequently paired with it. But when you talk about what you do, you create plans. Mm-hmm. And to some degree, the plan that you create is not kind of. Sometimes when we talk about ideation, we talk about outside the box. To some degree, you're creating a box. You're creating a structure for which people to kind of operate. And so it's interesting how these things kind of work together. Mm-hmm. So how have these themes kind of helped you? You've talked a little bit about your job. How about in your personal life? How does these themes help make you a better parent, a better spouse?
Well,
I think you've talked a little bit about
as a parent
to your kids' life.
Right. I think as a spouse, planning things in advance, around finances was important, and something we got right away, where maybe a lot of my peers just don't quite have yet. That and you might need to work with. Fortunately, here at Gallup we don't have just fitness and health coaches. We have money coaches. So
yeah,
kind of do the same thing I do, just for money. And
so how does discipline help you with money? What does that mean? You budget, you stick to a budget?
Absolutely, saving in advance. Maybe that's my futuristic, but just really being engaged in saving, and absolutely planning. Having your budget. I spend quite a bit of time just looking at. So February just ended, so I just, once March 7th hits, I get, all of our bills get paid, so I look back and see what we did in February of 2014, compare it to what we did in 15, so I have these comparisons on my Excel sheet. So it's just, I think financially there's a lot of ways that, discipline can be utilized.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think to some degree, it's what I said earlier. Is they really are good at managing the limited personal resources that they have, and I think time, money, energy, to some
Right.
degree, willpower, I think is another kind of limited resource,
It is.
and so I really, it's what I'm worried a little bit because there's so little of this in our database. Do you ever feel like a theme minority? Do you ever feel like there's
Yeah,
not many like you?
yeah. When I started this working up here, and discipline was on my sheet as you walk into the fitness center. Ryan Wolf, here's his top themes, and discipline's number one. And back 10 years ago, when that was the least common, I felt like a minority, but because people were kind of just didn't really know what it was, or were surprised to see it because it was not often seen. So, but I think that maybe I feel like a minority, but maybe that also means that people are more want me as a partner, feel like I can lend them something that's vital.
Absolutely. I think you're a great. You should be proud of what you got. I sense that you are. That you kind of own that part of you.
Right, definitely.
Was there ever a time when you were kind of when maybe your friends kind of teased you about it or anything?
Oh gosh, I think just I think about collections like my CD collection that I had growing up. Definitely, it was alphabetized. It was put together perfectly. My dad could help me build another wood shelf when I needed one, right next to it, and then I could rearrange everything. So I'd have to move 90 CDs if I bought one, that had the letter M. It started with the letter M, right in the middle of the alphabet. But so maybe there's some teasing there, but
Yeah.
and I don't think that things. I just have better processes now of organizing things in just ways that people find useful and not a waste of time.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Yeah, I don't think that you would waste any time. I mean, that's I think
Right.
the other part of that theme. It's time is important, so we budget our money, we budget our time, we have a schedule, we have a plan, minutes and hours and days, and
Exactly.
so how do you budget energy?
Yeah, that's great. So you talked about how willpower is also a finite resource, and kind of energy and willpower is sort of on the same wavelength there. And I started thinking more deeply about that probably 5 years ago, 4 years ago, when Tom Rath and Jim Harter came out with the Well-Being book, and talking about how we need to set positive defaults in our life. So, positive default, like an example would be keeping healthy foods at your house, not unhealthy foods at your house. So when you get home from work, you don't open the pantry and open up a bag of chips. You have your healthy foods as options instead. So
Like Greek yogurt.
right, exactly. So we have, with every decision we make, we lose a little bit of our daily willpower. So if you can kind of get rid of some of those decision-making times of the day, that when the decision has already been made for you to eat healthy or to do the workout because your friend is going to show up at 6 a.m. at your front door, so you have to work out with them. There's really nothing. That's another
Uh-huh.
positive default. So adding those defaults that are positive, ridding those defaults that are negative is a way to manage that.
Well, you sound really smart about this. Jim, do we have any questions from the audience
Yeah.
here?
No, we actually do. We have a ton. This
Good.
is the most I've
Good.
seen in a long time. So very good. I will say, when we think about discipline, let me just add a little bit in because I work with Ryan a lot, and so we've been friends for a long time, and he's my coach in the fitness center, and had kind of brought me along on a fitness journey, as well as some, just kind of a life journey. We spent a lot of time together. And his discipline aspect for me, I am all things undisciplined. So I have discipline 30 and focus is 34. So those aren't and he's really good for me in a power of 2, especially from a coaching standpoint. He knows in the 5 years or 6 years he's been working with me now. to be very consistent in my plans, and he doesn't go crazy on me when I deviate them. It's like, dude, you're out. I mean, any other coach would have thrown me out a long time ago. He's super consistent and disciplined with that, and even to the point where I was struggling a little bit this year with probably working too hard in the fitness center and injuring myself in some ways, and he put me on a very disciplined plan that was probably less than what I could do, but was more consistent with what I could do. And so from a coaching aspect, I think sometimes when we think about working with people, it's not always about pushing them the hardest. It's not maximizing them every single day, and I maximizer number 3, so I tend to do that. His discipline pulled my maximizer back into a reasonable place to say, Jim, let's set a base here. Let's back up a little bit. Let's be reasonable about what we're trying to do, and gave me a very disciplined workout to kind of move into it. And so it was just for me, it was a great analogy of this when we think about how those work together.
Yeah. It's kind of like saving money instead of spending money. It's like resting sometimes is like saving.
Right.
You build it up. I like that. That's good.
Mm-hmm.
So let's get to some questions, and I didn't get all the names on these, so if I read your question and I didn't say your name, I apologize. But had asked, how do we move from raw to more mature discipline? So any tips, Kurt? Maybe we'll start with you when we think of going from raw to mature.
Yeah, that's. I don't know if I have a good answer to that. That's really what I wanted to ask Ryan, if there was any education or experiences that he had that really helped him kind of. I think to some degree it's about the productive use. When you start to have money, and I find out when I save money, I have more money. When you start to see the results of that, I don't know when did you start applying this? And I'm not suggesting that organizing your baseball cards is not productive, to tell you the truth. I think there's something about a clean, neat room there's an inefficiency of that. If you wanted to find the rookie card of Boog Powell, you could probably find it.
Right.
So you have any more to say about how do you transform raw talent into a mature strength?
Yeah, I think it was just life experiences of saving money, watching things grow, watching things improve due to the time that was spent organizing and planning, from money to health, to relationships.
And I think the transformations is that now you are using your discipline to help Jim. I mean, when you start to use it, other people can benefit from the structure,
Absolutely.
from the plans that you create, the accountability. I think that's because I think it is primarily about personal discipline, and you can't give someone your discipline, but you can borrow them. You can loan it to them.
Right. Yeah.
Ryan, let me ask you this. Let me prime you with this. Does raw look? I think if I were to think about the raw version of discipline, I would think about frustration, because it's one of those things where you're disciplined, but the world around you is not, and that can be very, very frustrating to someone who has discipline. And their control or their lashing out at that with that frustration can be that raw discipline, where the mature is working with people in a way that gets them in order and helps them based on who they are, right? It's that kind of that individualization concept in people. Would you say that's accurate, or how would you add to that?
Yeah, I think that's a great point, and Kurt hit it on the overture earlier, where in its raw form there are frustration moments when things are chaotic, but I think as it becomes mature, there's more control that you feel like you can take on and impact. So when you have those impactful moments, getting rid of chaos is a way to that the theme matures into a strength.
Okay. Yeah, and I think some of your other themes, like you said, you've got harmony. Mm-hmm. And I think your frustration, if you're frustrated, you kind of add to the friction in an experience or a group. And I think the fact you talked about developer, there is a patient part to you when you're dealing with undisciplined people. whether it's in your family or the people you're coaching for their health and wellness. There is a patience that you bring to this structure that keeps you, I think, I've never experienced you as being a rigid kind of person who's just kind of stuck in a rut here. There's an openness to you that I think that makes your discipline even better. And more helpful and more productive.
Yeah, I agree, and I'd say his discipline doesn't necessarily let people off the hook. I mean, he has not let me off the hook on some of these things when he needs to.
That's where rigidity comes in handy.
Yeah, well, it's good. He knows
we're sticking to the plan here.
Maturity knows when to push and when to let go.
Right.
That's a great way to. That's a great way to say it.
Yeah. Maureen asks this question. He says, "I hear from a lot of leaders is in quotes, that people need people with more." Let me start that over again. I hear from a lot of leaders that people will be more successful if they have discipline. Thoughts on the coaching approach for those who don't possess that gift? So, that discipline is one of those coveted, I think, themes. It's like, I really wish I was disciplined. I would get more done. So some coaching tips for folks who don't have it and maybe what they would use in replacing it.
Yeah, one of the things I would mention is, and we talked about this earlier, one of the themes most likely to be paired with it is responsibility. I think responsibility is a great substitute for discipline. People with discipline do things because they have a plan, and they create a plan and follow the plan. That helps them to execute. I think people with responsibility are often driven not so much by a plan, but by a commitment to another person. It's a bit more of an accountability. So if you need to do something, the responsible person doesn't make a plan, they make a commitment. They tell somebody they're going to do it, and the outcome might be the same. It could be some people might use focus as another executionary theme. They have a goal. It's not about a plan and a goal are slightly different. It's more they're driven by the outcome of achieving that, and that might have some power to get people to execute. But you hear that a lot. You got to have more discipline. It's interesting. I've often heard from people who've been in the military. They will often say, I got discipline in the military, and I think sometimes that's probably true, but I think sometimes they might have been attracted to the military because they liked the discipline that it offered. There's a real kind of structure to military training. Were you ever in the military, Ryan?
No.
Okay.
No, I wasn't. So maybe that's why I didn't. Maybe. I was perfectly structured in my own life, so I didn't need it. But no, I don't think that's true. Just my life led me to a different path.
Yeah, sure.
So, but I could see where, just like somebody is attracted to a lifestyle in the military, maybe I myself in the position that I'm in now would attract a health goal and need some help getting there.
Yeah, no, yeah. I mean, I think it's a perfect vocation. I think you help provide what is missing, and I think that's the problem. I think some of the financial problems in our world, some of the health problems in our world, maybe it's because there's not enough discipline in people. And maybe it's so those people who have it have a special role to play in bringing some order, financial order, physical order, emotional order, and so I think when something is rare, it becomes more valuable. But I think there are some other things that, and I'm sure in your coaching people, you might. I'm hoping that just a little bit that you've learned about StrengthsFinder really kind of helps you when you coach people who don't have discipline. They have something else that might help them achieve their health and well-being goals.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we're still working on that, right?
We are.
We'll work together.
Every single day. And Kurt, I was in the military. I do see a difference that we say discipline, but it's really more order in the military rather than discipline. I think discipline is an internal thing. Right?
Yes.
It's a person thing where they make that decision. Order is putting a group in a process that guarantees discipline, right?
Yeah, I would say that's more consistency
in
terms of a theme.
Right.
It's a kind of rules and regulations and policies, and the system of how we do things is probably more consistency. But
yeah, Yeah, I think that's good. Annette had asked the question: differences and similarities when we talk about achiever versus discipline. Kurt, maybe start with you on that one.
Yeah, I think achiever. I think they might look the same. I think there's a difference between having a to-do list and a plan. I think a plan usually has a little more time orientation to it. When am I going to do what? Whereas I think achiever is just, okay, these are things I want to get done today. They might not have have an order to how they do them, but it's more about diligence. People get things done because they work hard. I think to some degree people with discipline get things done because they work in an orderly fashion. It's more about their efficiency than about their effort. Now he happens to have both. Ryan's got both of those.
Mm-hmm.
So he's got a sense of efficiency, but he's also got this diligence. So he probably gets more work done because he has discipline than if he had just had achiever and no discipline. He's got both efficiency and stamina and intensity, and so you can get even more done.
Ryan, you also want to talk about how your harmony fits in with that, because that's there's some uniqueness in there. Talk about how your harmony fits in that process.
Yeah. So, I guess raw harmony is avoiding conflict, right? Does that sound right?
Yeah, probably.
So, being okay with conflict or just wanting to get rid of conflict is kind of now how I kind of view myself. I'm good at recognizing conflict, and I'm also good at putting that on my priority list of getting rid of, because I just don't like it. So within my team, if there's issues that we have, it's something that I want to squash right away. And I have activator too, so that kind of sounds like activator harmony, just because it's a barrier, bigger things that we need to accomplish.
Yeah, I really think your harmony probably helps you a lot in just knowing that the effect that discipline can have. It could create some friction, but I think you're sensitive to that and aware of that, and it really helps. I think harmony is a theme that really helps you work well with other people, and like you say, to kind of get rid of some of the things that are slowing us down, the emotional things that kind of slow people down. So absolutely.
Right.
I think, Ryan, let me ask, when we think about achiever and discipline, just to go back here for a second, reading a little bit in chat and kind of catching up with them. When we think about achiever and getting things done, we think about discipline. Oftentimes discipline, I think, and respond to this, Ryan, gives you the opportunity to say no to something because it doesn't fit the plan. Where achiever in a raw form is just driving to get things done. Right, regardless of whether you might say yes to everything, right? In that sense, to achieve, because it's better. A great day for an achiever is getting a ton of things done. A great day for someone with discipline maybe is getting the right things done. React to that maybe a little bit.
Well, I think being able to say no is maybe perhaps more of a consistency thing than a discipline thing, but I think with discipline, I'm probably a lot more likely to say yes.
Because you probably are more efficient. You probably can get more things done.
Just with that relationship part of it with harmony, I want you to be able to accomplish this goal. This might be a really long-term plan, but let's have some milestones that we can achieve. You said some mini plans to get there.
One of the things that I've noticed about some people with discipline, I don't know if this is true or not, I've noticed that if they have a list of things to do, they might do the hardest thing first. Right. I think sometimes people with discipline can kind of, have this willpower to do the hard thing, whereas those of us with less, we can put that on the bottom of our list and maybe kind of keep postponing it till the next day.
Yeah, I think
is that true for you?
Yeah, the difficult things weigh on me, and I want to push them forward. So absolutely, I get started on those things right away.
Wow, I'd like to borrow that.
Yeah, wouldn't we all? Matt Swenson asked this question. He says, "What are the connections and similarities between discipline and strategic, especially as they relate to planning?"
Yeah. I think a lot of times people think of the strategic theme as a planning theme. I think if you have strategic and you have discipline, you might be a strategic planner. But I think strategic by itself is not necessarily a planning theme. It's a thinking theme. It's really about seeing the possibilities. So that strategic planning phrase really comes from the corporate world, where they have people who are strategic planners. And but so I think that it'd be a great combination to have is somebody who can kind of consider all the possibilities and then create a plan that is based on the possibilities. But I think that's kind of a misconception about that strategic theme, that it's a planning theme. I think it's part of the planning process, but strategic people may not always be very organized. They might be kind of scattered by itself.
Kurt, we're not done with questions, but we're kind of done with time, and I'm going to encourage folks. I talked to Ryan in advance, and I said, hey, would you join us on the Facebook page for questions? If folks still wanted to continue this conversation, they could jump into the Facebook group, and Ryan's going to jump in with us to answer some questions. So if you go to facebook.com/groups/call-to-coach, CALLEDTO, coach, that would be, and it's not just for coaches. This would be strengths enthusiasts, anyone out there. It's just a conversation around StrengthsFinder, and these themes go on in our Facebook group, and so if you join us out there as well. Kurt, anything you want to kind of wrap up with?
Yeah, absolutely. I am excited about Ryan Wolf's future. With the themes that he has, with the opportunity that he has to work with health and wellness in our organization. I think it's a great laboratory, and I think there's a lot of stuff we need to learn and discover about how do we help people live better lives. And I think especially in a world where there seems to be a lack of self-control, a lack of self-discipline, if we can kind of figure out how to do that. And Ryan, I think you're a guy who can not just help our organization do that, but who knows who you can help, not just individually, but make some discoveries around that. So I'm just excited about the place that you're at, the role you get to play, and the way that you have helped a number of people achieve better lives because of that. So thank you for what you do, for what you're going to do, and especially for being on the program today.
You bet. I love being here. So thank you very much, Kurt and Jim.
You bet, Ryan. Thanks for coming on. We'll remind everyone to take full advantage of all the resources that we have available at the Gallup Strengths Center, just gallupstrengthscenter.com. You can send us your questions or comments. Just send those to us in an email form if you want to, coaching@gallup.com. And a reminder, and actually Ryan's a big listener of Theme Thursday. He every time I pop in, he'll say, hey, I listened to the last Theme Thursday. He does it through the Spreaker app, but there's all kinds of different ways to do that as well. And we have all the links to our Facebook and YouTube page, all our iTunes and RSS feeds, as well as the iPhone and Android app. We have a great Strengths app available for you, free, if you want to download that either on your iPhone or through the Android store, the Play Store. All those links are over at coaching.gallup.com, including the Theme Thursday shorts. So we take the overtures out of these videos now and just make them available to you in an 8 to 10 minute segment that Kurt does. If you just want to catch those or make a playlist of them for your top 5 on YouTube, you can do that, and it's just a great way to be reminded of those themes, and you can go back and watch those. We have lots of meetups going on around the country as well as globally, and that's on our meetup page. Just go to coaching.gallup.com, look for the meetups tab, and if we haven't started a meetup in your city, let me know, and we'd love to try and get something started in your cities, and we're looking for coaches who will help us do that as well. 3 international as well. We have one as well in Singapore. As well as we're trying to get some started in Sydney and some in India. So we'd love to have you do that. Again, that's on our meetup page. And if you found this helpful, and I think many of you did, and I want to thank Sandeep out there for sharing it in real time, but if you found this video helpful, share it with others. We'd love to have you do that across all the social networks that you're a part of. And we want to say we look forward to the next Theme Thursday. We'll be back. Kurt, do you know what we do the next go-around? I should have looked in it.
Adaptability.
All
Adaptability, right. Kind of the other end of the spectrum.
Very good. We're back in 2 weeks with adaptability, and we want to say thanks for coming out, everybody. Goodbye.